Picture this. You open your laptop to start a new side project, but instead of launching an IDE, you open a mission control dashboard. In seconds, a research agent starts reading docs. A front-end agent sketches your interface, and a back-end agent wires your API. You are not typing boilerplate. You are directing a team. Here is the twist. That team is made of AI agents, and Google Antigravity is their project manager. For years, AI coding has meant one long, fragile chat window. You beg a single model for help, paste stack traces, and hope the context window does not forget what you said 10 messages ago. Antigravity flips that idea on its head. It is not a smarter chatbot, it is an orchestration platform built to replace your entire workflow. And in a minute, you will see why this matters way more than another 10% bump in benchmark scores. Let us start with the core shift beyond chat into orchestration. Traditional tools like early Copilot or basic code chatbots give you one conversation where every prompt carries the weight of the entire project. One mistake, and you are rewriting instructions from scratch. Antigravity instead gives you an agent manager, a mission control view where multiple agents run in parallel across your editor, your terminal, and even your browser. The pattern break here is simple. You stop babysitting a single bot and start supervising a studio of specialists. This is where vibe coding comes in. Instead of grinding through boilerplate, you describe the product you want, adjust the plan at a high level, and let agents execute. Inline comments on tasks feel like notes in a shared Google Doc. Cut charts from the MVP, switch this service to fast API, reuse the existing auth flow. You stay in creative director mode while the AI team handles the implementation details. But here is the part nobody expected. The real win is not smarter code, it is crushing coordination overhead, the thing that usually kills solo projects. Antigravity's agent manager is basically your AI dev team on demand. Instead of a dozen chat tabs and half-remembered prompts, you get a single persistent dashboard that shows every agent currently working on your codebase. Each agent appears as a trackable thread with status, logs, and checkpoints, like supervising junior engineers. The inbox-style interface means you are not polling for updates. You are triaging a queue of work items. This changes who can realistically ship complex software alone. In one demo, a single prompt fans out into 3 specialized agents running in parallel. A research agent digs through Google's agent SDK docs, a front-end agent mocks up the chat UI, and a back-end agent wires a Python fast API service with a health check. You can drop into any agent at any time, see its plan, its file structure, and even the commands it is issuing in the terminal. Multi-part tasks that used to unfold over hours of back and forth now compress into a single review loop. In a moment, we will look at how antigravity stops you from ever having to start over again. If you have used AI coders, you know the nightmare. The agent gets most of the feature right, then hallucinates charts, rewires your layout, and bulldozes files you actually liked. With classic chat tools, your options are brutal. Accept the mess or roll back and restate the entire request. Antigravity attacks this with an asynchronous feedback layer that works more like Google Docs than a command line. You do not argue with a giant response. You annotate the agent's thinking while it works. Inside the agent manager, every complex job expands into visible artifacts, plans, task lists, and walkthroughs. Each step appears as a discrete item you can click and comment on before the agent executes it. Your inline feedback, like keep the existing Tailwind config or reuse the current schema, feeds into frequent checkpoints where the agent pauses, rereads your input, and revises its plan. Instead of plowing ahead, it updates the task graph before touching more files. And here is the payoff. No fresh prompt, no context reset, no 40-message backscroll. That brings us to one of Antigravity's most important ideas, proof of work. When AI agents can refactor half your codebase in 30 seconds, you need an auditable trail of what they planned, changed, and shipped. Antigravity's artifact system gives you exactly that. Tasks define the high-level to-do list. Implementation plans explode those tasks into concrete steps, and walkthroughs log what actually happened, file by file and command by command. The scary black box of chat turns into a reviewable narrative of your project. Think of tasks as the contract between you and your agents. You define scope, constraints, and success criteria, and every downstream action pins back to those task objects. When you spin up 3 agents in parallel, you do not get one chaotic wall of chat. You see 3 distinct task threads. Implementation plans then force the agents to propose step-by-step changes before touching code. You can pause here, Drop comments like drop charts from the MVP, and push revisions without throwing away their earlier reasoning. This is plan, refine, orchestrate, turned into actual workflow. Walkthroughs close the loop by acting like a changelog on steroids. Every new file, modified function, terminal command, or browser test run is attached to a walkthrough entry linked back to its task and plan. If an agent introduces a regression, you do not just see a diff, you see why it did that step by step. Instead of one big approve or undo moment at the end, every stage of intent, design, and execution becomes a controlled, reviewable stream. In a second, we will see how this same orchestration powers something developers have wanted for a decade: self-healing code. Self-healing UI has been a marketing fantasy for years. The usual workflow is painful. Generate a UI, run it locally, take screenshots, paste them back into the model, and hope it understands what went wrong. Every iteration costs you more screenshots, more prompts, more context juggling. Antigravity's browser automation quietly kills that loop. Instead of you playing QA photographer, Antigravity spins up an automated Chrome instance, runs the app, and inspects the UI itself. Here's what actually happens under the hood. A UI agent finishes wiring your front end, then hands the project to a browser agent that launches Chrome, hits the right route, and captures the rendered view. That agent compares the visual output and DOM structure against your original spec and artifacts, treating your prompt as ground truth. If your spec calls for a 4-step progress tracker with labels and a highlighted current step, it checks each constraint explicitly. When it spots a mismatch, it logs a structured critique and immediately pivots into a repair loop. The browser agent edits the React or Vue or Svelte code, reruns the dev server if needed, reloads the automated browser, and repeats until the UI passes its own rubric or hits a review threshold you control. You can set policies so minor layout issues autofix, while riskier changes pause for human approval. Instead of babysitting every pixel, you review a clean history of self-healed iterations and only step in when the agent is truly stuck. This is not just convenience. It changes how much front-end work a single developer can own. Debugging gets the same treatment. Normally, debugging dies by 1,000 paper cuts, rerunning tests, tailing logs, adding print statements, writing one-off scripts. Antigravity's custom workflows let you turn that mess into a repeatable pipeline. Point it at a bug, and instead of one reply, it spins up a chain of agents. One reruns flaky tests, another scrapes stack traces, a third cross-references recent commits, and a fourth drafts a patch plus regression tests. Suddenly, you are supervising an automated root cause analysis line. Imagine a crash in production. You mark the failing endpoint and describe the symptom once. Antigravity can repro the failure in a controlled environment, capture logs and screenshots from the browser agent, correlate failures with deploy history, and generate a ranked list of root cause hypotheses. Every step leaves artifacts you can audit: test runs, log excerpts, diffs, and commentary. This turns tribal debugging knowledge into shareable, parameterized workflows any team member can reuse. Of course, giving autonomous agents access to your file system and your Git remote raises a scary question. What happens when the model is confidently wrong? One bad decision can turn into a weekend lost to rollback surgery. Antigravity's answer is a hard gate called review policy. Instead of hoping your agents behave, you define exactly how much freedom they get per project before they can touch a single line of code or configuration. This is the safety switch most developers have been missing. Zooming out, here is the strategic twist. Most tools compete on model scores, which AI is slightly faster or slightly smarter. Antigravity bets on orchestration instead. Gemini 3 and Gemini 3 Pro are powerful, but raw model IQ does not manage dependencies, track design decisions, or keep your front end and back end in sync. Orchestration does. Think of Antigravity less as an assistant and more as a project manager for a virtual dev team whose only job is to keep your vibe intact while the code quietly gets done. So what does this mean for you? If you are a solo developer, Antigravity compresses the coordination overhead that usually kills your side projects. Research, scaffolding, UI polish, debugging, and regression tests can all run in parallel, with you stepping in only at key checkpoints. For teams, it turns messy, undocumented rituals into shareable workflows and reviewable artifacts. The stakes are real. This kind of orchestration could change who gets hired, how many engineers you need, and what a one-person startup can realistically ship. We are heading toward a future where the IDE is not the center of your workflow. The orchestrator is. Instead of you living inside a code editor, you will live inside a mission control that coordinates AI specialists across editor, terminal, and browser. Antigravity is one of the first serious shots at that vision. The real question is not whether the models can write code. They already can. The question is who will control the pipeline that turns your vague idea into a shippable product. If you want to see deep dives into how these agentic pipelines are built, from Google AI Studio to the underlying developer primitives, tell me in the comments. Would you trust an orchestrator like this with your main repo, or only with Greenfield experiments? Subscribe if you want more breakdowns of tools that do more than autocomplete your code, tools that actually reshape how software is made. Because the future of development is not just smarter AI, it is orchestrated AI, and it is arriving faster than most people realize.